Guys, UFC 272 is this weekend. Covington and Masvidal are going to step into the octagon, and DraftKings Sportsbook has got a real knockout offer for all of you new customers. Listen carefully. Bet just $1 on the main event, and you're going to get $100 in free bets no matter what happens. It could be a first-round knockout, a majority draw, a split decision. You are going to get paid, and yes, you heard me correctly. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still feel the thrill of UFC 272 with DraftKings free-to-play pools. Everyone can enter a free pool with $10,000 in prizes. Just answer a handful of questions, like how long do you think the fight will last, and who's going to walk out the winner. Follow along to track your results. Here's what you need to do right now. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Sign up with the promo code Sonnen. Throw down just $1 on the UFC 272 main event to get $100 in free bets, no matter the outcome. That's code Sonnen at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Burns versus Chimaev. Here's what I think, guys. Burns is going to be the real test. Right? I mean, there's some guys that just don't get their asses kicked. And the only guy to beat Burns in any kind of recent memory is the current number one ranked fighter in the world. And Kamaru Usman had to put him down. Kamaru Usman couldn't go out there and control positions. Kamaru Usman could not go out there and gain favor. Kamaru Usman had to put that man down. It's very relevant. If Chimaev can run over Burns, I don't know how we don't make him the number one contender. The other side of that coin, 3 rounds is nothing for Gilbert Burns. You've really got to factor that in. If you've ever been impressed with Gilbert over time, if you've ever impressed with his ability to go out there, push, put out a huge volume, win every scramble, maintain positions, and pack a punch, it's going to be double. He doesn't have to worry about the later rounds. He doesn't have to save anything. You're going to see Gilbert Burns at his best. It's an interesting fight. I respect the hell out of it that anybody with only 2 times within the division would get in there with Gilbert Burns. I think it's the right fight to make. I just think more needs to be added to it. For me, that's the number one contenders bout. Who, in my opinion, is going to be the main event of International Fight Week? Okay, you've got a couple of suspects. First off, sitting out there, mega fight that's been announced, but no date has been given, is Usman versus Leon. The fact that that fight is made, the fact that that fight is done, but the fact that that fight has not been announced is a clue. We also are armed with the fact that Kamaru Usman out of nowhere went under hand surgery and is going to be removed for a period of time. But that is one very big fight that doesn't have a home yet. International Fight Weekend traditionally is the biggest fight of the year, which would also bring back the question, when is Conor McGregor going to be ready? And if Conor McGregor can be ready by July, is that July 7th, July 8th? If he can be ready by then and you can grab Nate Diaz, you'd have to consider doing that. Does RDA officially win the beef since Islam called him out and didn't follow through? Yes, he does. I was told that I had that story backwards, because I thought that Islam struck first, RDA agreed, Islam went quiet. Somebody else told me that RDA went first, Islam responded, and then all of a sudden, the change came in, and Monaco's going to step in. I think that there's a beef, and I think if you make a challenge within this sport, I mean, look, the rules in the playground do carry over to the octagon. And if one guy calls another out and he's going to claim victory because this one backed down, when the one that didn't back down says, all right, let's do it, and you don't show up behind the barn after reset, I mean, the rules are the same. It was a risky move by Islam. I think Islam got credit for doing it. I think it was a cool move to offer to fight fast. I think Islam should do more to keep his name out there. I think that's very good business to be in. But RDA did what RDA does, which is accept challenges, anybody, any weight, anytime. At worst, this is a draw. The MMA fighter that I respected most in my career, well, respect is an interesting word. I mean, respect has to be earned. Championships and titles and these things can be won. Respect is an interesting word. I respected very much George St. Pierre. who not only fought everybody, he was very calculated, but he was also very disciplined with his image. Didn't make mistakes. He stayed in the gym. He was a true martial artist. He stayed true to his gym and his trainer and his team. He stayed true to his hometown and his country. I understand those things. I also think the way that Daniel Cormier went about his career, changing weight classes, reaching success, being a triple threat because he was a fantastic commentator. Oh, and by the way, a coach the entire time. When you want to talk about respect, pretty impressive. Is Matt Hughes versus Frank Trigg one of the greatest comebacks of all time? You know what? And where do I rank it? That was the question. I don't want to be a dick about this. I'm stunned at how well that fight has aged. It wasn't that fun to watch in the moment. It's since been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and here you are asking me this very question. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. I never thought that Matt Hughes was in all that much trouble. I never thought that Frank Trigg was on the verge of winning that fight. I think that Frank went out there and surprised himself and overperformed because it was a rematch, and he did have a little bit of a fear of Matt Hughes. Frank Trigg came back the hard way. He earned that right. He beat everybody in front of him. I felt as though he had a good moment. Matt Hughes weathered the storm and came back. That's what I saw. For that to be the greatest comeback of all time, or even inducted to the Hall of Fame, if I'm to be fair with you, that surprised me. Who has the best fight style that just needs help with a gimmick? Well, that's an interesting question. That's also a very intelligent question by you. Because being the best and being the most popular have got to go hand in hand. If you do not have the popularity, it doesn't matter what your skills are, you can't get to a main event. And if you can't get to a main event, you can't be the title fight. And that's where the rankings do such a poor job. The rankings in boxing do not even hide it. It is a popularity list 1 through 10, period. If one guy made the cover of Sports Illustrated and the other 9 guys didn't, he will be ranked number 1 in boxing every single time. And people know so little about boxing, nobody even argues it. But MMA is just as guilty. If this guy looked flashy or this guy's fight ended with a leg kick knockout and that leg kick got broken off and it got put all over the media, he is going to move up in the rankings. It was one kick. It was the same kick that everybody else did. But if that's the one that gets grabbed and it gets more attention and more media, it's going to directly affect his ranking. So I fully understand what you're saying. And over a period of time, the rightful champion will take their spot. But it takes just that. It takes a period of time. It takes some competition. And a lot of times when the champion who has to work 3 and 4 years to finally get that opportunity and grabs it, it's not because they just became the best in the world. It makes you wonder how many other years were we told it was somebody else when it was really this guy, but didn't have the popularity to get the shot. There's politics within the sport. I don't begrudge them. I learned them, study them, and then I manipulated the hell out of them. I even bring them to you for free so that you could do the same. It sounds as though you're one of the people that have followed along, and I commend you for that. But don't be frustrated when one of those guys with great skills doesn't come up with a gimmick. People spend their time learning this sport. They put zero amount of time learning this business. They count on something called a manager who's the dumbest guy in the room. Did I have a harder time fighting a striker or a wrestler? Well, the answer would be wrestler, but it would be mentally speaking. I had some excellent wrestlers, Olympians and medalists and NCAA champions come through the room and they were never a problem in practice. But I also had a fight with Mark Munoz, scheduled. And Mark Munoz, my senior year, I had a dream of being an NCAA champion. I was not, he was. Same bracket. So now I have the ultimate shot at redemption to refix, right? If you could beat a guy in a wrestling match or you could beat him in the octagon, you 100% of the time, you're going to choose the octagon in front of the world. You are going to put a free format fight in front of a specialized event. So that was my chance for redemption. And when that fight did not happen, Mark got pulled out, Bisping got put in, but I remember having a relief. As much of an opportunity as that would have been for me and whatever would have happened, we'd have to live with the result. I didn't really want it. I was worried. And I never knew how worried I was for that contest than the day that I got the phone call that Mark wouldn't be there. What is the single most physically painful thing I ever experienced in my combat sports career? I've got 2 and they're equal. And I was very lucky. I don't know if I ever had an injury. I was 18 years old, warming up for the state finals match, cartilage in my knee tears. That hurt only because it locked my knee. I couldn't warm up this. I couldn't bounce around. But the pain wasn't there. So I had that knee surgery. I had that fixed. 6 weeks later, distant memory, I never went under the knife again. So I got very lucky in that regard. I will tell you, right before the NCAAs, in the Pac-10 finals, my senior year of college, I separated a rib. And when I worked with the doctor told me there's no way to cast or repair a rib. And he said the pain is coming from your nerve endings, and your nerve endings are going to rub on each other until they die. There was something about that description. They hurt worse once he told me that. As soon as he told, oh my God, it was hard to breathe. So a rib was a bad one. I took a broken nose. My teammate Seth caught me with an elbow in practice. He broke my nose. And as bad as that was, it was nothing compared to when they fixed it. They took 2 metal rods, freezing cold metal rods, as far as they would go, and they re-break to readjust your nose. That was the most pain I've ever been in.